Welcome to our deep dive, today focusing on spiritual parasitism.
Okay.
Our source today is a two-part article from the Spiritual Seek titled Spiritual Parasites, Recognizing the Signs of Energetic Vampirism.
Right.
We'll be exploring this concept, examining potential causes, and the various entities that are associated with it.
Okay.
But most importantly, how to recognize it and address it.
Right.
Now, this isn't something that's scientifically proven, but it offers, a really interesting lens for viewing, experiences of energy depletion and negative influences.
Yeah, it's definitely a framework that pops up in a lot of different spiritual and esoteric traditions.
Right.
And provides a perspective on how negative entities or energies might interact with our energy fields.
Right.
And, potentially impact our vitality and spiritual growth.
The article defines spiritual parasitism as an energetic relationship where one entity, the parasite, feeds off another, the host, causing harm. And unlike symbiotic relationships, this interaction is one-sided, benefiting the parasite at the expense of the host.
Yeah, it's not a good situation.
Yeah.
To be the host in these parasites, they're often described as non-physical entities.
Okay.
They're thought to latch onto humans through vulnerability in their energy fields,
Right.
Such as those caused by emotional trauma, unresolved issues, or negative thought patterns.
Okay.
And they kind of thrive on negative emotions.
Yeah.
They use things like fear, anger, and sadness as fuel.
These parasites can manifest in a bunch of different forms, correct?
Right.
The article mentions lower vibrational entities,
Yes.
thought forms, and even living individuals who exhibit these parasitic tendencies. Sometimes they call them energy vampires.
Right, exactly.
And the article highlights several characteristics of spiritual parasitism,
Okay.
starting with the feeling of constant exhaustion,
Yeah.
even when you are getting enough rest.
It's like something's constantly draining your energy. You might also experience amplified negative emotions.
Right.
As these entities manipulate your emotional state to kind of generate the energy they feed on.
And this can also lead to behavioral changes, right?
Yes.
Things like acting out of character, engaging in self-destructive habits, and increased isolation are all mentioned as potential signs.
Yeah. And there could be physical symptoms as well, like, unexplained headaches,
Right.
aches, digestive issues, insomnia,
You're right.
or a weakened immune system can manifest,
Okay.
mimicking those chronic illnesses.
Psychologically,
Yeah.
you might experience mental fog,
Right.
difficulty concentrating, a disconnect from your purpose,
Yes.
or recurring negative patterns in your life.
Definitely.
So this really brings up the importance of distinguishing spiritual parasitism from other energetic phenomena.
Right.
For instance, we have energy vampirism, which is similar.
Yeah.
Involves living individuals that unconsciously drain others due to their own energetic imbalances, rather than non-physical entities.
Yeah. It's also distinct from possession.
Right.
Which involves more of a complete takeover of the host's body and mind.
Right.
Parasitism it's subtler.
Right.
It's a more insidious influence on the thoughts and emotions rather than overt control.
The article explores why humans might be so susceptible to these parasitic entities,
Okay.
and suggests that the high levels of emotional and psychic energy that we generate makes us attractive targets.
Yeah, and the lower vibrational frequencies of negative emotions are easier for those entities to access and
Right.
to manipulate, and our free will and creative potential make us, energetically rich,
Yeah.
but also potentially vulnerable if we're not aware of our energetic boundaries and how to protect ourselves, especially in the face of all these modern stressors.
So let's discuss some of the potential causes and origins of spiritual parasitism.
Okay.
As outlined in the article, it points to unresolved emotional trauma as a significant factor.
Yes. Experiences like abuse, neglect, grief, or betrayal, those can create lasting scars on both our psyche and our energy field.
So those scars are like vulnerabilities in our aura,
Right.
making it easier for parasitic entities to attach. Trauma also tends to lower a person's vibrational frequency,
Yes.
making them more susceptible to lower vibrational entities.
Exactly.
It's almost as if those traumatic events leave these energetic imprints
Yeah.
that act like magnets, attracting entities with similar energies.
Right.
The article also delves into the role of persistent negative thought patterns and emphasizes that negative thoughts carry their own energy and vibration.
Yes.
And repetitive negative thinking creates this really dense, low-frequency energy that attracts parasitic forces.
It becomes a vicious cycle.
Right.
The negative thoughts attract these entities, which then feed off that negativity, making it even harder to break free.
And this relates to the concept of thought forms.
Yes.
Which are energetic constructs created by our thoughts and emotions.
Right. So if we're consistently engaging in negative thinking, those thought forms can take on a life of their own, become parasitic and further drain our energy.
Another key factor that the article highlights is a lack of spiritual awareness.
Right.
And when individuals are unaware of their energy fields or the potential for external influence, they're less likely to take steps to protect themselves.
It's that idea of unconscious living. You know, you're moving through life without paying attention to your inner world or your energetic state, leaving you vulnerable to external forces.
And this is where practices like grounding, shielding, and energetic cleansing rituals become so important.
Exactly.
They help us to strengthen our energetic boundaries and protect us from unwanted influences.
The article also discusses the impact of our environment. Toxic relationships, you know, can be incredibly draining. Being around people who are emotionally manipulative. Those energy vampires, as they're sometimes called, can significantly lower our energy and increase our vulnerability.
Chaotic or energetically stagnant environments can play a role as well, right?
Yes, the article mentions.
Cluttered homes or spaces where there's a lot of unresolved conflict as potential breeding grounds for parasitic forces.
Those environments can attract and harbor negative energies.
Substance abuse is another factor that the article explores, explains how substance abuse lowers our vibrational frequency and disrupts our natural defenses, making us more susceptible to these entities.
It specifically mentions alcohol's association with opening portals for lower vibrational entities.
Altered states of consciousness. Whether they're induced by substances or certain meditative practices can also expose us to lower astral planes if we're not careful. Now, the article doesn't delve too deeply into what the astral plane is, but it suggests that there are these different levels of vibration within it, with the lower levels being inhabited by, well, less evolved entities.
It also touches on the influence of cultural beliefs and collective energies, like those mass fear and anxiety events, like pandemics or wars. They can create a surge of low-frequency energy that these parasites can feed on. And societies that prioritize materialism over spirituality can disconnect individuals from their higher selves, leaving them energetically vulnerable.
Finally, the article explores the role of ancestral influences. It explains how unresolved traumas passed down through generations can create karmic patterns that attract parasites.
There's even this concept of ancestral attachments, where ancestors who haven't transitioned peacefully might linger and potentially drain energy from their descendants.
It's a very complex interplay of energy, intention, and karmic influences.
Very much so.
Now, let's move on to the types of entities that are associated with spiritual parasitism. The article dives into a few distinct categories, starting with lower astral beings.
These entities reside in the denser, lower vibrational layers of the astral plane. They're often called earthbound spirits or shadow entities. And they may be drawn to people who emit similar low vibrational energies and might even appear as shadowy figures in dreams or during meditation. Another category is thought forms, also known as tulpas in Tibetan Buddhism. These are energetic constructs created by repetitive thoughts and emotions.
And the article focuses specifically on the negative thought forms. Which can take on a life of their own. They manifest as intrusive thoughts, mental images, or even external sensations.
Essentially they perpetuate that negativity that they're born from, influencing our thoughts and emotions.
Then there are the energy vampires. Now, these are individuals, rather than non-corporeal entities, who drain others' energy through manipulation or excessive demands for attention. And their behavior can be quite parasitic, leaving others feeling depleted.
Exactly. They kind of exploit those interpersonal relationships, thriving on drama and conflict.
And lastly, the article briefly mentions demonic entities. These are malevolent forces in various religious and spiritual traditions, often described as highly intelligent, with agendas beyond mere survival.
Right. They're said to be capable of manipulation and harm, even potentially possessing individuals.
The article then explores the various motivations behind spiritual parasitism, suggesting that they vary based on the entity's nature and needs. For some, it's just a matter of survival.
Right. Those entities might need energy to exist. Extracting it from external sources, like humans.
They may lack the ability to create their own life force and rely on siphoning energy from others. And those negative emotions, being of a lower frequency, might be easier for them to access and utilize.
Another motivation the article highlights is the desire for control and influence. Some entities aim to control the host's thoughts, emotions, and actions, ensuring that long-term attachment and creating a dependency loop.
So it's about exerting power.
Yes.
And ensuring their survival through manipulation.
The article also mentions reproduction and propagation as potential motivations.
Not necessarily in the biological sense, but rather a spreading of similar energies.
Right. Some entities might try to create conditions that allow them to spread from one person to another. Potentially through negative actions or trauma, perpetuating your influence.
And the concept of resonance is discussed as well.
Yes.
Where entities are drawn to individuals whose energetic state matches their own. They might even actively try to lower a person's vibration to align with theirs.
Wow.
Like even in the energetic realm. The article then delves into the darker side, suggesting that some entities might act out of pure malevolence, deriving satisfaction from causing harm or hindering spiritual growth. It also acknowledges that parasitism can arise from karmic ties, debts from previous lifetimes, or unresolved issues between individuals and these entities.
It's a multifaceted phenomenon with a range of potential causes and motivations.
Now let's shift our focus to recognizing and addressing spiritual parasitism. The article emphasizes a multi-layered approach.
And it starts with self-awareness and healing emotional trauma. Identifying and healing those wounds is crucial as they create those vulnerabilities in our energy field.
Therapy, journaling, shadow work, all suggested as tools for confronting and resolving those inner struggles. And not only does healing trauma close those energetic vulnerabilities, but it also raises one's vibrational frequency, making them less attractive to those lower vibrational entities.
Energetic cleansing techniques are also important. Practices like smudging with sage or Palo Santo, taking salt baths, visualization, and sound healing are all mentioned as methods for removing those attachments and preventing new ones.
These practices can clear stagnant energy and strengthen the aura. Creating a more resilient energetic field.
Grounding practices are another essential aspect as they connect us to the Earth's stabilizing energies. Balancing our electromagnetic field and reducing stress.
Activities like earthing or walking barefoot on natural surfaces, breath work, and spending time in nature are excellent ways to ground ourselves.
The article also highlights the importance of spiritual practices for protection. These practices connect us to higher vibrational energies, creating that protective barrier against negative influences.
Meditation, prayer, and the use of sacred symbols or amulets can all strengthen our spiritual connection and offer protection.
Lifestyle adjustments are also recommended. Healthy diet, positive relationships, mindful media consumption are all essential for promoting well-being and reducing susceptibility to those influences.
It's all about creating that supportive and positive environment for ourselves. Both internally and externally.
In cases where the attachment is particularly strong or persistent, the article suggests seeking professional help. Experienced practitioners like energy healers, shamans, Reiki practitioners, or even clergy members trained in exorcism might be able to offer guidance and support.
And finally, the article emphasizes the power of raising our vibrations through positive emotions. Cultivating love, joy, gratitude, and forgiveness makes us less attractive to these lower vibrational entities. Practices like daily affirmations and engaging in joyful activities help us maintain a higher frequency.
The article even includes a short self-assessment to help readers gauge their potential experiences. With spiritual parasitism, it encourages that self-reflection and provides a framework for understanding these really complex energetic dynamics. So the article then shifts focus to how these entities might exploit individuals. And one key method is, well, Emotional manipulation. As we've discussed, they thrive on these negative emotions.
Right.
So they may amplify these feelings in their host by triggering unresolved traumas or insecurities. It creates a vicious cycle.
Right. The more negativity they generate, the more they have to feed on.
Exactly. And they might also instigate conflict in relationships.
Right.
Leading to more emotional turmoil.
Right.
Or they might instill feelings of hopelessness and despair.
Okay.
Which makes the host even more vulnerable.
The article also mentions energetic attachment as a tactic. They latch on to those weaknesses in the host's aura.
Right, which are often created by trauma, stress, or addiction.
Over time, this can lead to chronic fatigue as the parasite just siphons energy.
The article also describes the formation of energetic cords.
Which are like tethers that allow for a continuous drainage of energy from the host to the entity.
So it's not just a one-time drain, it's this ongoing leak of energy.
That's a good way to put it.
The article then highlights dream manipulation as another method of exploitation.
Yeah, during sleep, our defenses are lower, making us more susceptible to their influence.
So they might induce nightmares or sleep paralysis, creating that fear and anxiety that they can then feed on.
And even, through repeated influence, they might program the subconscious with negative thoughts and beliefs.
Leading to self-sabotage and waking life.
The article also points to addictions as being particularly vulnerable to exploitation by these entities. Because addictive behaviors, they often lower our vibrational frequency and create cycles of guilt and shame. Which are prime feeding grounds for these parasites.
So whether it's substance abuse or behavioral addictions?
These patterns create those vulnerabilities that these entities can latch onto.
And they might even encourage those behaviors, amplifying cravings or justifying the harmful actions to keep the host trapped in that cycle.
And the article goes on to explain that some entities go beyond simply feeding on emotions. They want to control the host's thoughts and behaviors.
So they're not content with just siphoning energy. They want to exert influence. Manipulate the host's actions.
So they might implant negative thought loops. Encourage self-sabotaging actions, or even isolate the host from their support system.
It's a way to maintain control and ensure that steady energy supply.
The article also mentions how some entities might exploit physical weaknesses, exacerbating chronic illnesses, or taking advantage of fatigue.
Even spiritual practices can be exploited if we're not careful. Like meditation without proper grounding, or channeling without discernment, can inadvertently open doors to these entities.
It's a sobering reminder that we need to be aware and protect ourselves, even in our spiritual pursuits.
The article then transitions back to strategies for dealing with spiritual parasitism, emphasizing that a multi-layered approach is often necessary.
So it starts with that self-awareness and healing emotional trauma, identifying and addressing those underlying wounds and negative patterns that create vulnerabilities is crucial.
Therapy, journaling, and shadow work are all recommended as tools for this inner work.
Healing trauma not only closes those energetic vulnerabilities, but it also raises one's vibrational frequency, making them less attractive to lower vibrational entities.
Energetic cleansing techniques are also important.
Smudging, salt baths, visualization, and sound healing are all mentioned as methods for removing attachments and preventing new ones.
These practices can help to clear stagnant energy and strengthen the aura,
creating a more resilient, energetic field.
Grounding practices are also essential.
As they connect us to the Earth's stabilizing energies.
Walking barefoot, breath work, spending time in nature. All excellent ways to ground ourselves.
Reduce stress, strengthen our connection to the Earth.
The article then discusses spiritual practices for protection, such as meditation, prayer, and the use of sacred symbols or amulets.
These practices can strengthen our connection to higher vibrational energies and create that shield against negativity.
Lifestyle adjustments are also key.
Okay.
A healthy diet, positive relationships, and mindful media consumption are all important for promoting well-being.
It's about creating an environment that supports our well-being.
Yes.
And makes us less susceptible to these influences.
And in severe cases, seeking professional help might be necessary.
Right.
The article mentions energy healers, shamans,
Right.
Reiki practitioners, or even clergy members trained in exorcism as potential sources of support.
And finally, the article emphasizes the power of raising our vibrations through positive emotions.
Cultivating love, joy, gratitude, and forgiveness makes us less attractive to these lower vibrational entities.
Right.
Practices like daily affirmations
Okay.
and engaging in joyful activities can help us maintain that higher frequency.
Okay.
So, considering the various ways these entities might operate, what steps can you take to strengthen your energetic boundaries and cultivate a more resilient inner world?
This deep dive has offered a framework for understanding and addressing this complex phenomenon. And we encourage you to explore the suggested practices and continue your journey of self-discovery and empowerment.
It's important to remember that while this concept of spiritual parasitism might seem a little daunting, the article really emphasizes that we have the power to protect ourselves and cultivate resilience.
It's about taking that proactive approach to our well-being, both physically and energetically.
Absolutely. The article encourages us to become more aware of our energy fields and the potential influences around us.
So recognizing those signs of spiritual parasitism is that first step.
Yes, and understanding the various ways these entities might operate can empower us to make choices that support our well-being.
So for instance, if you're constantly feeling drained, experiencing those amplified negative emotions, or noticing those behavioral changes that seem out of character, it might be worth considering whether there's that energetic component to what you're experiencing.
The article suggests that we shouldn't dismiss these experiences as simply psychological or medical issues. It's about considering that possibility of energetic influences and exploring the tools and practices that can help us regain balance.
So it's not about living in fear,
No.
but about being informed and empowered.
Exactly. The article emphasizes the importance of self-care and self-awareness. It reminds us that healing emotional wounds, setting healthy boundaries, engaging in practices that strengthen our energy field are essential for maintaining well-being.
Those practices like grounding, shielding, energetic cleansing can help us create a more resilient energy field and protect ourselves from unwanted influences.
And cultivating those positive emotions like love, gratitude, and compassion can raise our vibrational frequency, making us less attractive to those lower vibrational entities.
So it's about taking that holistic approach to well-being, addressing our physical, emotional, and spiritual needs.
The article also highlights the importance of seeking support when needed, whether it's from therapists, energy healers, spiritual mentors, or supportive friends and family. Reaching out for help can make a significant difference.
So as we conclude this deep dive into spiritual parasitism, we encourage you to reflect on what resonated with you most from this discussion.
What insights can you apply to your own life to enhance your well-being and navigate the complexities of the energetic world?
Remember, knowledge is power.
Yes.
And with awareness comes the ability to make choices that empower you on your spiritual journey.
Perhaps this deep dive has sparked a curiosity to explore these concepts further or to experiment with some of the practices we've discussed.
We encourage you to continue your exploration.
Yes.
And approach these topics with an open mind and a discerning heart.
And as always, we invite you to share your thoughts and experiences with us.
Right.
We value your engagement and appreciate you joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of spiritual exploration.